So unfortunately, they aren't going to see me today, but at least they can get the lesson that you guys get this morning. That's the way it works. It's kind of cool with that whole camera thingy. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and read this real fast. You guys can follow along. You can look up the board. I don't care which way you do it. Just make sure that you are paying attention. Make sure this is bright enough. All right, we're going to go ahead and read this real fast. Most of Egypt is desert, yet the terrain around the Nile River is full of life. Ancient Egypt became successful because it was located near the Nile. Agriculture was possible because the river flowed through Egypt. Each spring, heavy rains and melting snow poured into the river, so water from the Nile flooded the land around the river. When the water levels sank in the fall, the river left behind dark, rich soil. People planted crops in the rich soil. If you remember from social studies, I believe the Nile River is the largest river. I think it's bigger than the Amazon. So the Nile River provides many sources of food, farming was important. Because the river flooded each year, the ancient Egyptians could plan their growing seasons. They planted grain, crops in the rich soil. They also planted fruit and vegetables. Often the Egyptians grew more food than they needed. As a result, they could store food to feed animals. Egyptians raised animals such as donkeys, sheep, goats, ducks, and geese, and they used some of these animals for meat. Wildlife was another important food source. The marsh areas around the Nile were home to birds, fish, antelope, and even lions. I didn't know that. So the ancient Egyptians hunted these animals for food. The Nile River was also important to ancient Egypt for supplies. Egyptians used the plants growing in the marshes near the Nile for food, as well as for materials and tools. One of these plants was papyrus. I always say it wrong. This thin plant can grow nearly 15 feet, about 4.6 meters high. Strips from its stems can be made into a strong cloth, and therefore ancient Egyptians used this material to make rope, sails, sandals, and even clothing. There is a type of paper too, papyrus paper. I just gave it up. Most importantly, ancient Egyptians used papyrus to make paper. Papyrus was an excellent material for paper. Strips from the papyrus stems could be layered together, and then the sap from the plant acted like a glue. The strips dried into white sheets in the sun, and papyrus paper became the main writing material in ancient Egypt. Egypt sold it to other countries as well. There it is. The Nile River is the longest river in the world. The river was important to ancient Egypt for protection. It was also important for travel and trade. Its shape and waterfalls made it hard for people to travel into Egypt. As a result, the river helped protect Egypt from enemies outside the country. Inside the country, the Nile connected the people of ancient Egypt. The river was a main travel route, especially for long distances. During flood season, it was often easier to travel by river than by road. Unlike ocean travel, there were few dangers on the river. For example, heavy storms and pirates were not a problem. Travelers could use simple rafts instead of large, complicated ships on the river. Consequently, people all over Egypt could easily and safely carry goods on the river. They traded and sold goods within and around Egypt. Interesting. Now, we don't really spend a whole lot of time in Eastern Hemisphere, Eastern civilization. So, I mean, the Nile in ancient Egypt is something that you guys will study in 6th grade. The pyramids and things like that. We don't really hit a whole lot of that in social studies in 5th grade. So what I want you to do is I want you to look at, we're going to focus on the first 2 paragraphs, but it has a paper for it, and you probably already flipped to it. This one. This is the one we're going to look at today. Okay? So, again, let's talk about the difference between a cause and effect, because that's going to be really important today. If you want to, let's put cause and effect definitions up here on the boards or on the paper so you know what the difference is. You might have to refer to it again. Okay. So let's see if I can make, whoa, that was not smart. Okay. My light is struggling. It's on a struggle bus. All right. Okay, so cause is why something happened. Yes, Nolan? Is that what you're going to tell me? Sorry, I didn't see your hand up. So a cause is why something happened. And I would probably write this down. I'm going to pause this. That is the cause. Okay. And then the effect is what? Okay, so the effect, you're right, is what happens. Okay, the effect is what happens. Sometimes it's easier to just to say the result. Sometimes that's easier to say. So there are signal words that kind of help you out as you are reading a passage and looking for those cause and effect relationships. Okay, so we're going to kind of talk a little bit about some of those signal words. One of the signal words that you could easily find would be the word because. Because is going to be a signal word that can easily help you figure out what happens. So when you're looking for signal words, because is one that you definitely want to look for. When you're looking for signal words, results. Result is also going to be another big one. When you see these words, they're going to tend to give you a clue that you have a cause and effect relationship or cause and effect domino effect going on. Okay? All right, so let's read this passage right here. What's wrong, Lily? Are you all right? Do I need to make it a... Let me see if will this darker color help you better if you can see it. I'm just using a pen at this point, but... Okay. All right, so let's look at this. Most of Egypt is desert, yet the terrain around the Nile River is full of life. Ancient Egypt became successful because it was located near the Nile. Do you see a signal word there? Yeah, right here. This word right here is your signal word. So that kind of tells you that there is a cause and effect relationship here. Okay? So now you have to ask yourself, what's the cause? What's the effect? Look at this sentence. Egypt became successful because it was located near the Nile. We see a signal word. Now we have to ask ourselves, what happened? What happened? Can we ask ourselves what happened in this question or in this sentence? What happened? What happened? Riley? Well, if you're asking yourself what happened, would it... Okay, you're correct. Yes, you're right. Yes. Okay, I was looking at it wrong. So what happened was Egypt became successful. So this part right here, and if you have a highlighter, you can use it. If you don't, it's not a big deal. So here's my orange. This is my what happens. Is that right? Did I do it right? Yeah. What happens? Egypt became successful. Okay. What caused why something happened. So why did Egypt become successful? What was my cause? Why did it happen? Why did it happen? Yeah. Because it was located near the Nile River. So there's your cause and effect relationship. Can you see how it can get kind of confusing if you're not asking the right question? I mean, even I got tripped up there at the very beginning because I was looking up here at the what happens, why something happens, and you could easily kind of get yourself tripped up and confused if you're not focused. I guess you could say I wasn't quite focused there because I totally tripped myself up. All right. But again, your signal word is the one that really helped you figure out that you had this cause and effect relationship there. Leighton, are you with me so far? Are you underlining these so you see them? Come on, Leighton. All right, here we go. Agriculture was possible because the river flowed through Egypt. Do we have another signal word? Okay, so here's our other signal word right there. So now we're going to ask ourselves that same question. We're going to say, okay, so agriculture was possible because the river flowed through Egypt. So let's ask ourselves that same question. Let's say, oh, shoot.
Pardon the interruption. Any student still needing to do a picture retake for 3rd through 5th grade, please head to the cafeteria at this time.
Okay, so agriculture was possible because the river flowed through Egypt. What happened? What happened? What happened in this sentence right here? Again, you've got to focus because it can trip you up if you're not thinking about it. What happened in this sentence? Hayes? Oh, nope. Second sentence. Okay, agriculture was possible. So that's what happened. So what caused that? Why did that something happen? What was the cause of agriculture being possible? Samuel? The river flowed through Egypt. Okay, you with me? You're with me so far? Okay. Here's another signal word that we didn't talk about. It's coming up here. It says, each spring, heavy rains and melting snow poured into the river, so water from the Nile flooded the land around the river. This word right here is a signal word. So gives us another signal that we have a cause and effect relationship there. Okay, so I just said it. I know. Okay. Each spring, heavy rains and melting snow poured into the river, so water from the Nile flooded the land around the river. Okay, so my next, now that I've said that, you're going to notice when I say it. What happens? What was the effect? What happens? We're looking for the orange in that sentence. What happens? What we got, Asher? Okay, so that's it. It's opposite this time. It's opposite because of that signal word. So what happens was the water from the Nile flooded the land around the river. So the Nile flooded each spring. So my question now is, why did that something happen? What was the cause of this happening? What's the cause? Remember, it's flipped this time. And that will happen sometimes. Viv? Here you go. There's your, sorry, I didn't realize it wasn't bright there. There's your cause. So it got flipped. And again, think about sometimes one event will cause an effect, and that effect will cause a new effect, and it's like a domino, okay? So it can be like a, so we could call it like a cause and effect chain. It's like a chain reaction type of thing. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Really. Yeah. All right. Let's look at, let's flip to the next one. We're going to see if we can do some of this by ourselves this time. This will be the last part of today. So here's what I want you to do. You're going to draw some pretty pictures down here at the bottom. Actually, you don't have to draw pretty pictures, but. All right. So here's what I want you to do, okay? All right. Let's make this as easy as possible. If you have two different color highlighters, colored pencils, that would be great. If you don't, you can borrow two from me. But let's have two different highlighters or colored pencils. I'll pause this for a minute, and then we'll talk about what I want you to do. Doesn't have to be highlighters. It could be colored pencils. It could be maybe light colored markers, not dark ones. You are going to read these two paragraphs right now independently on your own. And I want you to label the following in the paragraphs. To be honest, I see two at least. As I was reading through this while you guys were getting set up, I saw at least two cause and effect relationships in the two paragraphs. So I know that there's at least two. What you're going to do is you're going to label the cause, label the effect. Your first thing that you're going to do as you're reading this is look for the signal words. If you find a signal word, then you're going to circle it and then work on the cause and effect. I don't care what color, cause, effect, whatever, but that's what I want you to work on. When you're finished with this, Mrs. Motz's class, what I would like you to do is just take this paper, put it in your folder, and then you can go ahead and continue working on your independent work. We will talk about the results of this tomorrow. See you tomorrow.